Chair of the Service Excellence Committee. The clerk has advised me that we have quorum, so I'd now like to call our meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, and a special thank you to the clerk's team to help deal with an audio and video issue, and to you for your patience. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and in person at City Hall in Committee Room 2. The meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. Although we may be meeting in different locations today, the committee would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I did also want to acknowledge that today is our last Service Excellence Committee meeting, and I wanted to take a moment to thank the clerk's team. Members, you may recall there's been a few clerks that have helped us with this, starting with Kate Carrillo, Gary Clark, and of course, Nico Menkakis and all of the team. So I really appreciate their efforts to make these meetings happen, and I also wanted to express my personal gratitude to Vice Chair Ainsley, Councillor Fletcher in the room, Councillor Crisanti online, and the former members of the committee, Councillor Chang and Councillor Perks, for all of your work and all of your contributions. I think it has led to some excellent things. And of course, to all of the Toronto Public Service and members of the public who have participated in these meetings and contributed to the items. If you're registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I will call speakers in the order that they appear on the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Service Excellence Committee page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Members, the City Clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council and on CMP, the Clerk's meeting portal. I also want to remind you to please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at svexc@toronto.ca to help with the motions. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you do have an interest, please raise your hand and unmute your mic. Seeing none, we will proceed. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our last meeting on May 14th, 2026? Moved by Councillor Fletcher. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Members, we have 4 items on our agenda today, and we will proceed through them. Okay, actually, members, before we begin, I'm going to propose that we reorder the agenda. And that is to move item SC 13.3, Customer Experience Division, Biannual Data Review, Insights from Early 2026, to be the first item of business. And my rationale is that it is an encompassing report and may be more efficient to hear that first. If there's no objections, we'll do that. I will hold that item as I note that there are 2 speakers. Our second item is SE 13.1, Leveraging Toronto Water Data to Improve Customer Service. Are there any questions of staff on that item or members wishing to hold? Councillor Fletcher is holding that item. Our next item is SE 13.2, using 311 and other data to identify trends and improve service delivery in solid waste management services. We have speakers on that item, so that will be held. And our fourth item is SE 13.4, using 311 and other data to drive service excellence in urban forestry. And we have a registered speaker on that item, and so it therefore will be held. Members, I do note we do have a presentation from staff, and so we will go to our first item. That is SE 13.3, Customer Experience Division Biannual Data Review, Insights from Early 2026. We'll give the team just a moment to get set up at the front of the room. Welcome, please proceed.
Good morning, committee. My name is Danielle Serafim. I'm the Executive Director for the Customer Experience Division. With me today, I have Gerson Beltran, Project Director of Business Intelligence and Workforce Management for the Customer Experience Division, and Terry Ricketts, General Manager, Parks, Forestry, Recreation Community, and Social Services. I'm pleased to be here this morning to walk you through item 13.3, which is our division's first biannual report to SEC. This report provides a review of Q1 2026 service demand and performance in collaboration with our integrated divisions. And in fact, you will see examples how integrated divisions are leveraging 3-1 data to drive operational performance with reports from our partners in Toronto Water, Solid Waste, and Urban Forestry, also on today's agenda. The Customer Experience Division is in a unique position being the front door to the city services, collecting critical information and data insights to support our divisional partners. And we have been proactively working with divisions to ensure we're making data-driven decisions, and we will continue to drive that with our divisional partners. Our report also responds to a direction from the Executive Committee to take a closer look at geographic distribution of service requests in parks, which Terry will cover later in the presentation. Moving along, how divisions use data. 3-1 data is just one part of the overall picture of how divisions use data to inform service delivery and improve performance. Divisions use a variety of data sources to inform both immediate responses and longer-term planning to ensure services are delivered equitably across the city. When you combine the 3-1 data with internal operational data, it gives a much more complete view of performance. As you've seen in reports to this committee in our discussions back in May, divisions are already using 3-1 data along with other data sources to help guide their service delivery and to better understand where things are working well and where there are areas of opportunities to improve. You will also see 3 other reports coming forward on this agenda from our divisions describing in more detail how they leverage 3-1 data along with other sources of data to review performance and drive service improvements. 3-1 is one key tool used by city divisions and councilors to support decision-making and improve operations. In response to direction from SEC and Council, the customer experience and integrated divisions have been taking a coordinated approach on how we use and report on data. Back in March, we launched interactive dashboards that share 3-1 service request volumes and service levels with both councilors and the public. For councilors, you can find data for your wards on your councilor dashboards, which are also available on Channel 96 in your offices. We're also providing divisions with more detailed data through dashboards and backend systems to support day-to-day planning and performance management. This year, customer experience staff and staff from each integrated division have started holding quarterly reviews in addition to our service improvement steer goals. Those reviews are helping us identify trends and areas of opportunity, and they will feed into our biannual updates to this committee along with annual reports. So let's look at the data. In Q1 2026, 3-1 created about 158,000 service requests across 6 integrated divisions, along with requests for non-integrated divisions and agencies. This represents nearly a 20% increase from Q1 2025. Just over of those requests, about 53% were transportation services, which was largely driven by winter-related demand. The intensity of the winter season has also impacted across other divisions, as you can see here. We saw higher overall volumes, including in Toronto Water and Urban Forestry. We saw a small reduction in MLS requests, as well as 14% decrease in solid waste requests, mostly due to the transition of the recycling. Try again. Mostly due to the recycling program being transitioned. For parks, since it was only brought into 3-1 system in the fall, we don't have a Q1 year-over-year comparison. That said, we're starting to see expected seasonal patterns and getting early insights into higher volume requests. We'll continue to build on that with more complete picture, including the peak summer period coming in the future updates of the 2026 annual report. Here are the Q1 2026 service levels by division compared to the same quarter last year. Service levels indicate the ability of a division to respond to a service request within agreed time. The data we see here shows we've made progress in how the winter shaped service more broadly. We have seen both improvements and some challenges driven by difficult winter season. Strong oversight, faster response times, and better reporting tools led to improvements in MLS service levels, and they were able to improve by 9 points compared to last year. Park, newly integrated last fall, we don't have yet comparison data, but they currently hold SLAs of 88% at this time. The winter season impacted the service level of urban forestry, solid waste, and the Toronto water. Although they declined compared to last year, as you can see here, they also each had crews redeployed to support winter responses, which significantly impacted the success of keeping the city moving throughout the winter. We also saw higher demand for services impacted by winter factors for each division. Urban forestry was one. Service levels were down by 6 points overall. They were able to handle 91% of tree emergencies within 72 hours despite a higher volume of requests. Solid waste has also seen a decrease in their service levels by 7 points from several pressures at once. Along with redeployment this quarter, they also saw service boundary changes affecting 130,000 customers and the blue bin transition. Toronto Water experienced an 8-point decline in the service level, but also saw a 20% rise in requests, many tied to cold weather impacts on the service lines. So despite the challenging winter season and the lifting of the winter holds, Transportation Services was able to improve their service level by 12 points compared to last year, with gains across all top services like sidewalks, snow clearing, and road plowing. Overall, Q1 shows how significant the winter was across the system, and that with strong coordination, good data, and targeted planning, we can still respond effectively and protect priority services. Moving along. On 311 service delivery, during Q1 2026, our customer service representatives handle about 212 general inquiries on top of the service requests we created, which were 158,000. Right now, 311 is managing 3 phone lines for the city: the main 311 line, the vacant home tax line, and the tax and utility line. When we look at trends over the past year, what stands out is that our top general inquiries by volume are actually being handled outside the main 311 line. We're seeing a significant amount of demand coming through the vacant home tax and tax and utility line. Those calls also tend to be more complex, which means they take longer to resolve on the phone with our agents. To give you a sense of that difference, about 83% of calls on the main line are answered in 75 seconds. On the tax line, about 70% of calls are answered within less than 7 minutes, which is significantly higher than previous years, which we were holding at a much lower service level. Another thing to note is that the main 311 line has a council-approved and funded service level, whereas the vacant home tax and utility lines don't currently have a formal service target. We set an internal target to better assess performance on these 2 other lines, and we're actively managing demand across the 3 lines by shifting resources where needed. That said, this is an area we see an opportunity to continue improving over the service experience, and we are working very closely with Revenue Services to develop an improvement plan. With that, I'll pass it on to Terry in Parks.
Good morning, everyone. Terry Ricketts, General Manager, Parks and Recreation. Our division was asked to report back to this committee with the geographic distribution of park service requests, which were integrated this past September. We are at the beginning of our 311 data journey. What you're seeing here is an example of the geospatial distribution of litter-related service requests from September through March. We monitor these trends for hotspots. Those are the areas in yellow. We use this data to inform resource allocation and scheduling for service requests such as litter and snow clearing. This heat map gives us a sense of the concentration of service requests, which are naturally focused in high-density areas. As we receive more service request data over the first full year or 2 years, we'll start to understand trends in service request types, seasonality, and geographical areas. This data will be used to better align resources to emerging trends and ensure effective service delivery. And I think if I could, the value of these heat maps for us is really that for the proportion of work we do in relation to responding to 311 calls, which is quite different than the lion's share of the work we do, which is proactive service for our parks, that piece, having this data has allowed us to see how we might approach these service requests in a proactive way, whereas traditionally it's been a response to a reactive call. We appreciate the eyes on the street that our citizens give us. They show us the things that we're not always in every place to see. But again, historically a reactive response to those calls, but now seeing early trends, we can start to predict patterns, particularly as we get a season or two of data under our belt, and respond in a proactive way and start to realign our resources ahead of the time that we need them. So this information we're finding incredibly valuable. Okay, back to you. Thank you, Danielle.
So in conclusion, and looking ahead, we'll continue working with our partners to strengthen the 311 service and support the overall customer experience when interacting with city services. One of the key pieces of work underway is with technology services and the integrated service divisions to establish the Toronto data platform. The goal there is to create a more centralized approach to data, governance, and analytics, and enable a more real-time reporting across multiple data sources. We're also looking and working closely with revenue services on a multi-year improvement plan for the vacant home tax and tax and utility lines. That work is really focused on responding to growing demand while continuing to improve a high level of service and maintaining performance on the main 311 line. And finally, we'll continue bringing forward regular updates like this one. You can expect a biannual reporting in addition to the Q2 and Q3 updates coming to SEC toward the end of the year, and Q4 included as part of the annual report at the first meeting each year. So assuming the committee continues after the upcoming election, this approach gives us a consistent and predictable way to report on performance, share analysis, and highlight opportunities for improvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to questions of the team, we will go to our public speakers. Our first speaker is Ingrid Boudet from No More Noise. Is Ingrid here or online? Online, okay. Good morning, Ingrid. It's Stephen Holliday from the Service Excellence Committee. Oh, I apologize. I read the wrong line item on the list here. It's a long list. Our first speaker on this item is Derek Moran. Now, I saw Derek. Good morning, Derek. Welcome. You may begin as soon as you're ready. You've got 5 minutes.
So this meeting started a half an hour late for mic checks and camera connection problems. I just want to say that Councillor Nunziata is absolutely right when she says that people have to start attending these meetings actually in the room from now on. By me speaking at this meeting, this shall not be deemed to be in any way my consent, express or implied, in doing so is fraud, and let the record show I do not consent to the warrantless searches taking place downstairs here at Toronto City Hall. So in this report it says, the Customer Experience Division, in partnership with Integrated Service Divisions, continues to strengthen data, transparency, and enable data-driven decision-making through public dashboards, shared operational data, and quarterly reviews. Now, they love to use the word transparency at the police board a lot, so I haven't mentioned this in a while. So this is the definition so everyone knows of transparency from Black's Law Dictionary. Openness, clarity, unobstructed access, especially to business and governmental records, lack of guile, and of any attempt to hide damaging information. The word is used of financial disclosures, organizational policies and practices, lawmaking, and other activities where organizations interact with the public. In regards to lawmaking, I just want to send a shout out to Director of Prosecutions, Callie Chapman, for responding to a question of mine recently. So this is what it says in Edmonton Journal versus the Attorney General of Alberta, 1989, where the Supreme Court of Canada said, in the United States, this principle is not restricted to hearings. The principle embraces the recognition of the existence of a common law right to inspect and copy public records and documents, including judicial records and documents. So I just wanted to share with everybody, because court services is mentioned twice in this report. Another city employee who was transparent with me recently by email. I was told to view the original file for 480-510-6435F. You may attend the court office at 92 Front Street East. For your convenience, we can set up an appointment time for you to meet with me to ensure we have the file ready for your visit. Our counters are open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Please let me know what date and time works with your schedule. Thank you, Pamela Malta, Acting Manager, Court Operations. So I just want to say thank you for that, being transparent with me. So in this report, it also says, largely handled outside the main 311 line with significant call demand directed to the VHT and tax utility lines. With the success of the revamped VHT declaration process, homeowners are now able to declare more easily. You may recall a couple of years ago, Councillor Holladay, I spoke about the vacant home tax. The thing about the vacant home tax is there's a flip side to freedom of expression, and that is you can't compel people. Compelled speech is also a breach people don't realize of freedom of expression. And that's what's being done here by compelling people to make a declaration, or we will fine you. And if you don't pay the fine, I know from experience what the city did to my dad several years ago. We'll put it on your property taxes, and then if you don't pay your property taxes, we're going to send you a threatening letter that we may put a power of sale or a lien on your house and steal your house. So I just wanted to read what it says regarding this in Rosen versus Ontario Attorney General, where the Ontario Court of Appeal in 1996 said that freedom of expression encompasses the right not to express views. Therefore, compelled speech can result in a breach of Section 2B, and they cite a couple Supreme Court cases. This is from Godbout versus the City of Longueuil, 1997, where the Supreme Court of Canada said, because the declaration signed by the respondent amounted to a contract of adhesion, and that's what those vacant home tax declarations are. You're making people do contracts of adhesion, the terms of which were dictated entirely by the appellant. Municipalities perform a quintessentially governmental function. They enact coercive laws binding on the public generally, for which offenders may be punished. As regards municipalities, it consists in the much broader discretion to adopt and enforce coercive laws binding on a defined territory. So the courts know what you guys are like. You force coercive laws onto the people and under the threat of punishment. I got about 10 seconds here. Councillor Holladay, for God's sakes, it's an election campaign season. Stop giving Mayor Chow dance lessons.
Thank you, Derek. Are there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none. Our next speaker is Nicole Corrado. Nicole, here online. Good morning, Nicole. It's Stephen Holladay from the Service Excellence Committee. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I was going to say this is about the, thank you. What I would say is that I'm really glad that wildlife response calls have reduced by 4%, but my concern is that despite the reduction in wildlife response calls, Toronto Wildlife Center does not have a wildlife rehabilitation permit, so a lot of the animals just end up being euthanized. So what I would suggest is that you incorporate the Toronto Wildlife Center, which is a licensed rehabilitation center separate from the city, that you incorporate them into the 311 system so that you would have the 311 calls, any calls for wildlife, be redistributed to Toronto Wildlife Center. That's what I would suggest doing, that you So that way, Toronto Wildlife Center can respond to the calls and the animals could actually go to the rehabilitation center. And if Toronto Animal Services, even if they respond, they would bring the animals to the Wildlife Center. So that's what I would suggest is that 311 direct people to Toronto Wildlife Center for any calls about wildlife rather than Toronto Animal Services.
Thank you for your deputation. Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you again for joining us. Are there any other speakers in the room or online for this item? Seeing none, questions of staff. Okay, I will ask a question of staff. My question, I just wondered if we could dive a little bit deeper into the breakdown of calls. Because in the presentation, there was a discussion that calls for information, specifically in the category of tax and utility and vacant homes tax, were specific categories. Could someone just outline how many calls come into 311 and then what the breakdown is and why of those two particular categories?
For the chair, to the chair, VHT calls are about which numbers? Just read it. You can read it. VHT was about 18,000 calls. Tax and utility line was 45,000 calls, and the main line was 233 calls in Q1.
So 233,000 versus 45K versus 18K.
Correct.
So that is like more than almost a quarter of the calls are related to those two specific categories. I heard a comment that there was an improvement plan that was underway with the with revenue between customer experience division and revenue services. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? Since those are like really high priority areas because there's a lot of calls.
Absolutely. We have been working with revenue services. Historically, this line was not part of the main line. It's still not. We have 3 lines that we're working on. The SLAs approved and funded by council were only on the main line. The 2 other lines, we've been working since 2015. VHT was launched in November 2024. And since that, we improved the first year, we had lower SLAs, and we're now increasing those 2 lines to 70%, where historically they were in 29%, 43%, and 67%.
So I just want to explore a bit more. I saw there was something in here about tier 2. And if I recall, there's a tier 1 and a tier 0. Could you tell me how those line up to somebody that's interested in tax and utility information or vacant homes tax information? Because there's so many of them that call, right? There's a lot. Could you just tell the committee about how that works?
That's correct. So those are our top 5 generating inquiries: property tax billing, vacant home tax. We separated it into tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 are the calls that 311 answers.
Okay.
If there's anything more complex than that needs calculation, all those tier 2 calls are transferred to revenue services.
So how many of the 45,000 plus 18,000 ultimately get transferred to revenue services? And it's okay if you don't have an exact number. Is it like a lot or a percentage of those or a small amount?
%7 are transferred.
Okay, so just a thin slice.
Correct.
So the first tier 1, are handling the bulk of the inquiries, and you said that it was relatively simple things that they were providing. Is there a plan to try to get that information to the caller in an easier way so they don't have to sit on hold. For instance, enhancements to what's online, enhancements to what's inserted into the envelope that's mailed out, that sort of thing. I mean, that, I'm going to sort of say that's a bigger question than customer experience division. What are we doing to bring those call volumes down so that only the really complicated stuff is what you have to call for?
I can start and pass it to my revenue services partners.
Thank you.
Here. We are doing work with in reviewing an end-to-end process to understand how this division is working and how we can work better together in transferring of calls, workforce management, right numbers, and to ensure that they're actually good SLAs. But I'll transfer to my revenue services partners.
Mr. Chair, I have questions. I'm sorry. I know. Just a note that I have a question.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Crisanti. We're just getting the end of that question, I think.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Good morning, everybody, and through the chair. My name is Susie Melito. I'm the Customer Service Manager for Revenue Services. So we are working with 311 and Strategy Corp on refining our Tier 1 and Tier 2 calls for a tax and utility line. And like Daniele did refer to, in 2015, the partnership between Revenue Services and 311 started. At that time, 21 staff were resourced to 311. And the remaining staff were left with Revenue Services. Tier 2 calls are a little bit more complex and do require an amount of detailed adjustments with payments, penalties, and interest. They are complex in nature with these types of calls. VHT calls tend to generally be quicker because they are declaration-based and they are done directly online, and there is a dedicated amount of 13 staff that are funded through the VHT resource fund. So.
Thank you. My time is up. We'll go to Councillor Crisanti. Go ahead, Councillor Crisanti.
Yes, thank you. And good morning, everyone. So just back to the same line of questioning, the tax and VHT. Danielle, you indicated earlier that these are the two most complex issues or complex calls that you get over 311, and that you have a multi-year improvement plan. But before we get to that, you also mentioned that there's a 7-minute wait. And that's quite concerning. And that's probably why, due to the fact that these are complex calls. But can you elaborate on that? And what is being done to improve or shorten the time of the wait for people calling in?
Through the chair, we've been working very closely with this line in the last year. We improved it from the 60s to the 70s on SLAs. We are proactively working on creating efficiencies within 311 on the other line to properly staff this other line without adding resources. But having said that, we are looking into reviewing the end-to-end process in how we're staffed for these two other lines, and we will be coming back in 2027 for a budget review. So in summary, we're using our existing staff for other lines to improve the service line.
Okay, thank you. Have you been able to identify the one or two main questions that people ask, or a series of questions that people ask that take the longest to deal with on the phone?
That take the longest, just to confirm, that take the longest on the line?
That's correct.
Normally, the average handle time for these calls are less than 10 minutes, but they're much higher than general inquiries on the main line. Most questions people are looking for property tax due dates, the utility bills, and to get proper documentation or to do it over the phone with the staff. So vacant home tax, they call and they want to do the vacant home tax declaration over the phone. So there's a variety of reasons. And Councillor, I can provide you more details if you want after this committee.
Okay. I think the next question might be for legal. So the deputant indicated earlier on the VHT, I think, a good point that, I just wanted to explore that a little bit, where you did mention that you cannot compel people to participate in the VHT program. What is the status of that legally? Is that a question that we've spoken about here at this committee? Can you answer that question? Can we actually compel people to do it?
Through you, Chair, the issue of compelled speech and the infringements on constitutional freedom of expression is a multi-factor issue, right? All freedoms are protected to the limits that you can justify in a free and democratic society. So forcing people to say things or not permitting people to say things are limits on that freedom. Whether or not there is a justifiable limit constitutionally is for the courts to decide. We at the city have believed that this minimum sort of thing to require someone to say certain aspects to participate in the city program, similar to requiring people to identify themselves with respect to building permits or other sorts of things, is a sort of de minimis sort of infringement on that freedom, which is justifiable in a free and democratic society. And so we enacted the bylaw in accordance. So hopefully that answers the question. I'm here for any follow-up.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think we're going in the right direction. But this is more than just asking someone to identify themselves. It's if you have a property owner who's been paying taxes on time for 30, 40, 50 years, and they're maintaining their property, it's their property, they own it. I think that's beyond identifying yourself. Can we actually compel them now to just tell us whether or not and how they manage their own property, whether it's vacant or not?
Through you, Chair, the assumption is that requiring property owners to provide certain minimal information concerning the operation of property is within the legal authority under the Constitution for the City of Toronto to require people to do. That is our operating position, and that is why the bylaw was enacted in the fashion that it was. There are other legally available options that could be explored, but that was the one that council did decide after a review of the legalities of the proposal in keeping with things. So the current operating position is yes, we can do such a thing. Whether or not on a constitutional litigation all the courts of Canada would agree with our operating assumption, I cannot predict, but that would be a fool's game. But we were comfortable in such a position. That's why we designed the bylaw in the way that we did.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Fletcher.
Yes, I'm just looking at the service request now that we have for the spotlight that is now on parks with the new and exciting operation under 311. And the example map says 311 service request hotspots related to litter and garbage in parks. Oh, I'm not close enough. Thank you. Oh, these are my questions, right? I'm asking questions right now. Yeah, and then do you have a motion? So I just, by litter and garbage, what does that mean and what does that mean for 311? Because solid waste picks up the garbage in the park, so I'm unclear. It's confusing me.
Through the speaker. So specifically on litter in parks, it would be litter that would be found in the parks and requires to be litter picked. Anything that's specific to a bin goes to solid waste. However, sometimes there is a miscategorization, and we work together with solid waste to ensure that service request lands to the correct service area.
So I guess I'm just talking about what is the service request? then exact?
It would be litter in a park.
Litter in a park. And garbage in a park would be which service request for solid waste or for parks?
I believe it's specific to bins, overflowing bins, but I can refer that to solid waste if you know the exact wording on
Mr.
it.
Kelleher is going to answer that.
That'd be correct.
So really, it's related to litter in parks or I'm just looking at the headline you've got here.
So Counselor, just for an abundance of clarity here, the title of Parks heat map should remove garbage and just be reflective of litter.
So I guess we're spending a tremendous amount of time being accurate and getting this online. So that should take place. This is a public document at this point, and would you agree it's confusing? I'm asking parks, since you don't pick up garbage. I wish you did, but you don't.
So it would be specific to the park. So I think litter and garbage in a park would be a service request we would look at and ensure that it gets to the right area. If it's specific to garbage in a bin, that would be specific to solid waste.
Okay, I really need to have that clear. Is it dumping of garbage? There's many different service requests. MLS has them. There's dumping, which is where you just put all your junk somewhere. There's garbage, which is solid waste, and there's litter. So I'm really intent on making sure that all the categories are exact. So please help me out, Mr. Kelleher. What would that be for dumping?
So, Counselor, I think the best kind of framing of this is if it's a bin that is overflowing, it's solid waste. If it's on the ground, it would be parks. So if it's illegal dumping or if it is litter, that would be parks. And of course, working with MLS on the illegal dumping side of things. But if it's a bin, it's us. If it's the ground, it's generally parks.
So I'm just going to ask what the parks means by garbage then.
So, Councillor, my take of this is that most of the litter is garbage. It's just the term that was used, litter and garbage, and it's just framing it up in that manner versus the internal garbage being in a bin and litter being on the ground.
And who sets all these SR codes? Are they set by the divisions or are they kind of confirmed through 311? Because I think they're set by the divisions, are they not?
That is correct, Councillor.
So do you not have any oversight of what might make sense for SR codes?
Historically, unfortunately not, but as you know, we're working very closely going forward with all the divisions to ensure there's a customer experience component on how we create service codes.
So I guess I want to know what we mean by garbage, what parks means by garbage. Mean litter, or do you mean illegal dumping, or it's unclear? I don't want to start off confused.
Through the chair, generally we look at litter and garbage on the ground as being the same, but we're happy to go back and look at the service codes, the service request breakdown to provide more clarity specific to align with our service.
I would ask that for this new category, that rather than wait, that this be, because we're now bringing all these fresh ones online, and I don't have that as a motion, but I'd ask you, does that not make sense since these are all brand new, that you review those very closely, that there's not overlap or confusion?
Absolutely, Councillor. And this is work that we're starting to streamline and do to fix a lot of the service codes we already have in
I'm not talking
place.
about a lot of the service requests. I'm talking about the ones now with parks.
Yes, we'll
only.
take that away and
Number
work with
one.
them.
I have one more question. It's just I'm in the rinks now, and it does not. It commingles outdoor rinks and skate trails. Is there a reason why you haven't separated those out in your SR codes?
It's specific, sorry, through the chair, it's specific to location. A location could have both a skate trail and also a rink attached to it, but the notes allow one to clarify the ice surface that they're specifically looking for maintenance on.
But I couldn't call up and just look at skate trails. I'd have to look at all of the whole category. So, right?
Through the chair, it's specific to ice.
It's specific to ice, but we have many categories that, I can go for a second round if you need me to.
Second round. Go ahead, Councillor.
I'm just looking at all the solid waste delineations, which are a lot. Overflowing bin with something, overflowing this. And I would, when I speak, argue about how it's laid out. They're just all the same. But you have a tremendous number of breakdowns by each kind of thing, do you not?
We do, Councillor.
And I'm not sure that there's the same number of breakdowns when the parks categories are made. Did you do these categories with at 311, or you created them and turned them over to 311? I'm asking, I hate it when people are behind me because I'm asking those questions to the staff behind me.
Through the speaker, we worked divisionally within ourselves in order to create the codes. We tried to take an approach to ensure that there was that no wrong door approach, so that anything that was coming in, there was a way that every single issue could be captured generally, but there is also the ability to drill down and understand more specific information specific to service requests.
Yes, so you'd agree with me that when my staff are searching, that they can't just search rinks, or they can't just search outdoor rink, or can't just search trail on its own. You'd have to go through everything, correct?
Through the speaker, that's correct. You have to go through ice.
So perhaps that needs to be adjusted. Then, okay. I'm just wondering for those codes, so when there's no kind of code overflowing bin, and then you get to on the street, in a park, on the right of way, on private, whatever, for overflowing. It starts and then moves out to the bin later. Is that a conscious plan, or is that just because they've just been added all together? So if you know what I mean, title, subtitle, specific detail. I find that it's not done in that way. Is there a reason why you've not done 311 codes in that way? I'm talking about anything. Yeah, solid waste, rinks, like outdoor rinks, ice trails, or yeah, winter.
I can't speak about the past. Maybe Matt, I don't know if you have anything to add, but we
I'm
are
just
definitely going to
interested.
review it.
Because sometimes, oh, we'll add a new one. But when there's probably, how many? At least 100, maybe more of those. Are they ever categorized by basket, and then main title, then subtitle, second subtitle, like a headline, and then on? Is there a reason why that hasn't happened?
So, Councillor, my understanding is when you go on to the 301 portal online, they're categorized in that kind of hierarchy like you're mentioning. But when we look at the service level catalog, that lists all, I think, 160 of our SR codes and, hundreds of other divisions. They're not broken down in that type of hierarchy. They're just kind of listed there, which, again, is not as user-friendly in that format, but on the online version, it appears to be kind of structured in the way that you're speaking there, more hierarchical.
So I'll ask 311 why the reporting isn't in the same way. The intake seems one way, but the reporting out isn't.
We could take this away. We do report in the service codes, but we can take this away and how we can provide more details.
I just have the list, and I have it electronically, and it's just one big list, rather than, as Mr. Kelleher's saying, bigger title, bins, and then everything to do with bins. Is that a choice, or just how it's been done?
It's how it's been done on our reporting, but we can take a look at it.
Yes, just back to the parks, for those ones that are dense, yellow, which is dense, red, which is hot, and blue, which is not very much. That's back to page number, or is it 10? 8. Page number. Where are those parks? Could we get a list of those, please? I'm going to send this report to executive now. So all of these questions that I'm asking now, get ready, because I'm expecting they'll all be cleared up by then with a plan, or there'll be another motion. But this one, I just want to know where those are. Do you have them listed? They're very clearly, mostly right in the downtown core.
Through the chair, we do have a breakdown listing, and we are happy to provide that to you today.
You could provide that to me today and to those counselors and attach that breakdown if this report goes to, if the committee agrees to send it to executive.
Through the chair, we're happy to do both.
And would you say some of these, Mr. Kelleher, if you're on that page, also coincide with your hotspots that you determined earlier and took a hotspot approach to for solid waste?
I'm sure that there are some overlap, Councillor.
Particularly in the downtown, those
Yes.
central downtown wards?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to take an opportunity to ask a couple of questions. I think it'll be quick. Councillor Fletcher has inspired me. I'm intrigued by this.
I love inspiring.
I just wanted to understand, practically speaking, there's a garbage can in a park, lots of stuff goes on, fills up, starts flowing onto the ground, wind blows it around, there's garbage piled up against the side of the garbage can. How does that get dealt with by the city? I'm not even going to discern between departments. How does it get dealt with?
So, Councillor, hopefully the staff get there before there's a service request put in, and we empty the bin and tidy up in and around the bin. If a service request is put in, we're there within our service standard of 2 days to collect that bin and tidy up in and around that bin and address those issues there.
So, Mr. Keller, I just want to make sure I understand this. So if there is garbage on the ground next to the bin, solid waste will take the extra step to, I guess, empty the bin and then collect what's on the ground, put it in the bin, and then empty it a second time, because the ones in the parks are automated bins, right? They're the cans with the lids.
Yeah, that's our expectation, yes.
Oh, they're toters.
Toters, thank you.
And those other little ones on the side. Two
If-
times.
If it gets really messy and the wind blows it around, or there's been an event at the park and there's garbage litter, whatever you want to call it, strewn about, that's more than solid waste handles.
Correct.
So is it parks then that cleans that up? Okay, so I'm going to go back to the heat map because I'm intrigued by it a little bit. The hotspots don't necessarily correlate with volumes of people. They're kind of there, but I see busy parks, but there's one right in the center that's like, according to this map, has got a lot of problems to it. But I'd love to know. I think it's Westdean Park, but I'd love to know if there's more of a story about why that seems to be called in often, and is there a way that we can deal with that? Because this is park. It's not about a bin that's so full that it needs to be dumped, because I think this is a different heat map.
Which one is that park you're talking about?
It's in Ward 2, there's sort of a
Let's
purple
get the
dot
list.
in the
Yeah.
center.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if is there a story to that? Like, what can we glean from the map to take it to the next level of conversation?
So through the chair, I do want to comment specific on the additional litter around the bins as well. Park staff who are on site before solid waste gets there to remove the bins, if we see that, we don't just leave it around the bins. We do clean that up as well. So I just wanted to ensure that point was clarified. Specific to the types of information we're gleaning from the hotspot maps and the example that you provided, some of the things that we're looking at is diving a little bit deeper into what does the story tell us about where we're seeing more consistently. So the types of things that we've learned are there are certain parks that have higher special events that are occurring. Additionally, they have higher numbers of picnic permits that are occurring. They also correlate to dumping. So those are the types of information that we're pulling and we're looking at and we're learning from it. And sometimes those trends change, where some parks get reclassified for certain areas, and larger special events will start migrating to a different area. We're looking at that information, and then that's going to allow us to move resources specifically to address the emerging trends that are happening there, to proactively mitigate rather than just be responsive.
So, Ms. Kovachis, it doesn't have to come to a report to this committee, but could you tell me a little bit more about how you work with it internally? So if it's picnics, that gives rise to a conversation with the people that administer the permits to say, hey, we got a complaint about litter, you should know this. Maybe people that repeat offend or cause problems, they don't get a permit in the future, I don't know. Or there's some sort of enforcement that happens with bylaw enforcement. So could you expand a little bit about how we take this further as a municipality? Knowing it might not be a committee decision, but just internally.
Yeah, for sure, Chair. So staff are regularly reviewing the SR volumes. We're looking at location, we're looking at response times, and we're looking to where those reoccurring issues are and where those service hotspots are. And where we find something that aligns with another area, we do connect with them directly. So specific, and I'll use the permit example that you used, where we're pulling permit reports actually, which allow us to see where there are higher concentrated permits in an area that may have changed over the years, where traditionally that they weren't. That's allowing us to proactively or schedule staff based against those permit times. Additionally, where we're finding permit holders that are larger permit holders in special events, for example, that aren't abiding by the cleanup plans, we now have evidence to be able to work with those permit holders in the future.
Thank you. My time is up. I'll just check. Is there a third round?
Yeah.
All right, third round. Go ahead.
So you do have the names of those parks, and let's just go back to that one in Ward 2. Why does it have that little red mark there? Whatever the name of that park is.
West Dean Park.
West?
I'm guessing, but I think that's what it is.
Is that what it is?
I don't have the exact park name here with me, but it's likely either Centennial or Westeen. The chair is
Centennial.
likely correct.
According to the counselor, it's not. So
Centennial has its own dot.
perhaps when we get this ahead of executive, that will be helpful to understand that, what they are, and just the volumes as well, because the solid waste volumes are pretty high, or they know exactly, and I'm not sure if you have do you have the volumes, or this is just the frequency?
Through the chair, it would be the location, but also the number of SRs for that location.
So the number of SRs, okay. And for dumping, which does happen in parks, that is an MLS response, is it not, dumping? Or has it moved to parks now?
Through the chair, it's a shared response, so it depends on the type of dumping, and it depends if the individual is identifiable or not.
But who gets it first?
It could go to either MLS or to parks. It depends, for example, if they have information related to who it is, then the MLS SR allows you to go through that service request. If it's general dumping found in a ravine, for example, that would come through parks.
In the ravine, it would go to parks?
It could be in a park as well, just using it as an example.
I'm just getting so confused because ravines are now under Mr. Nolan. Do parks clean the ravines as well?
Through the chair, we do work together with urban forestry, but we do have a role with ravines.
Okay, that's helpful. And for 311, is that helpful to have two different codes if it's dumping, or does somebody get it out and then see if there's somebody that can be charged? What's the best way to do that? Because we've not had codes for parks before. It would only have gone with a phone call.
We can take that away, Counselor, and review it in detail.
And you can tell me on 21st of July. And then for permits, I'm just going to ask Ms. Ricketts, have you moved permits out yet to actual parks? Because they're in a different place, away from people that are running the parks. Is that, or are they still in a different place?
Through the chair, the permits group is a centralized group, but they do work closely with parks operations as well as our capital groups and other groups when assessing permits.
How many permits are there for parks compared to recreation centers? Can you answer that today, or do you have to answer that
I'll need to come back with that
on the
information.
21st of July?
Yes, thank you, Councillor.
Because, well, I got a request for a noise exemption, and then, anyway, that, I'll speak about that in a minute, because to me, the streamlining for 311 also needs to be streamlined in other ways. So you have no plans to centralize permits for parks under parks and the cleanup and the garbage and anything left behind. That will be done in another part of your division, is that correct? Or you have a plan to make a change?
That's the case presently, Councillor. We are looking at how best to deliver these services over the course of the next year or 9 months. So whether or not we have plans may change in future, but presently that's how we are organized.
So that might be something for a service excellence to, are we only reviewing 311, or maybe we'll review that committee? Got it. Okay, I'm fine.
Thank you, and I'll just check, are there any other questions? These hybrid meetings, okay. Members wishing to speak?
Yeah.
Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you. I just have a motion. I think I'm clear on that. I was saying it earlier. That this report be sent to the Executive Committee on July 21st, 2026. And this committee does report to Executive. It reports through Executive. So there's a whole number of things here that I think are very interesting, and some things that staff have agreed to take on ahead of time, including this map here for the parks, because it really is our first moment that we're able to look at how well all of that's going on and where some of those are. What does it mean? I think it would be helpful for 311 to just look at all of those categories and be able to tell us every time somebody thinks up a new one, it goes on the list, but the reporting out, and I have it right here, is just a long, long, long list where it's not very intuitive. So if it's an overflowing bin, or if is it Ashbridges Bay sewage treatment plant? Is it Highland Creek sewage treatment plant? Or is it just an odor? How's that going to be organized so it's easier to really see where those hotspots are? I'll just say about the hotspots, because, and thank Mr. Kelleher, because when we started looking at the bins and Astral, we started looking at, and the mayor in particular wanted to know why there's often places that are overflowed. And one of the exercises around the bins was for solid waste staff to just look at where those places are, where are those hotspots. And mostly they look like this map that we have in front of us for parks. So solid waste did put in a very strong approach to making sure those are being picked up regularly, knowing that's where that's happening for whatever reasons. Maybe not enough bins, maybe there's FIFA games, maybe there's something else. And so when I look at my little hotspot map here on page 12, that's a tiny little wee playground that is probably isn't even as big as this room. So there's some calls there. Now, I think they're probably litter calls, not garbage calls, or if they're overflowing, I don't know what's in there. But this map now is very different than the map that we had seen before, because Cosburn and Pape was just massive numbers of calls, and that's now just been put on a get there before it gets overflowing. I think that overflowing. So I just wanted to say that that approach has really worked really well. It's been very strong and very effective, and to thank the solid waste team for that. And hopefully we can move to the same approach in the parks one, because we now see where those situations are. And if there's permits and there's picnics and everything else, maybe we'll do like Rodars, where you're paying an extra bit, and if you leave a mess, you don't get that deposit back. And if you leave it nicely, you do. So I think everybody's heard me about permits. I'll just say that a large rave that asked for a nice noise exemption coming through the portal, that I had to look into it. My staff looked into it. They then got in touch with Parks, that the permit office didn't know about it. The parks didn't know about that. I think there's a weakness there, and I'd like to see that corrected. And I think everybody hears me, that I will make that my business on the 21st to know more about that. And I'll have a motion there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. I too would like to speak and place a motion. I could ask the clerk to put it on the screen. And I thank Councillor Fletcher for putting that motion up, and I changed the words accordingly. I was just going to ask, it was originally the Service Excellence Committee would make the request, but now it will be the Executive Committee, since that's where the report is going. But I just wanted to ask that the Director of Revenue Services and the Executive Director of Customer Experience Division to tell us a little bit more about the work that they're doing. And it's just to report to the appropriate committee next year. About the call volume that is requests for information around taxes, utilities, and the vacant homes tax, because they represent such a substantial component of the overall calls that come into the city. And I note their volumes are so large, and I'm going to guess that they probably happen at certain times of the year, not every day, that they have their own performance metrics, which are longer, and that's natural. In other words, they don't draw down the performance metrics of the balance of all of the other inquiries that go in through the 311 system. And I think that's important for us to understand as we watch how things unfold with the city. But I would like to see if there's anything, because seconds count. And if it's 400 seconds, can we get that down a little bit? And does that mean that there's some additional communications, that there's some additional work that can be done so that people can self-serve? The citizens will be happier because they don't have to wait on hold as long to talk to someone to ask a question, and vice versa. Our costs go down because things can be resolved without having to speak to somebody at the other end of the phone. And the people at the other end of the phone are there. I should start my time. Sorry. The people at the other end of the phone are there to resolve complicated situations that you just can't fix yourself. So I think that work is happening. That's what I heard. But I would be very interested in hearing more. And I hope that that can come as an update in whatever the iteration is in the future. And I also, as I said in my questions, share Councillor Fletcher's enthusiasm and interest and intrigue on what these maps tell us. And, you know, I hope to spend some time with the local park supervisor to understand why some of the dots are the way that they are. And I went online and I did notice that there's not one bad door to go in or wrong door to go into. You can go to the landing page for 311 service requests, and you can click on waste collections, bin litter, and needle cleanup. And that takes you to a little sub-page that says Parks or Recreation, Facility, Litter, Garbage, and Bins. And then that takes you to a page that says Collection Bins in City Parks and Litter and Garbage, right? And we talked about that today, the kind of breakdown in two directions. But you can also start your journey at the landing page under Parks and Recreation, and then go into Litter and Garbage, and takes you to the same place. So that means the citizen doesn't have to categorize it as one or the other. But I do take note, because it came up today, and here it is. Those two subcategories that talk about collection bins and litter and garbage both talk about overflowing bins. So I would like to continue the journey of refining that language so that the request gets categorized correctly and so that there's not a lost opportunity. And I think this is all about, making advances. And as we go through these details, we learn more and more. And we learn about the types of things that people ask about and the best way to resolve those. And then what's really fascinating are the stories behind these dots. And is there something that can be done to make them better so that people don't ultimately even have to call in? It just gets dealt with. So I hope you'll support my motion. I think it's an interesting subject, and we will carry forward. Are there any other speakers on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, actually, I'll ask for some help from the clerk just on the motion 2 goes first. So all those in favor, any opposed, that carries. And on motion number 1, all those in favor.
Motion 1 is now redundant.
Motion 1's redundant. Do we, and that has replaced the rec, so that's it.
And that is the end.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay.
It's on the reporting out that we use, Mr. Chair, that I'm talking about.
Yes.
Not the Toronto resident, but the back end for us, which
Right.
is not that friendly.
We will go to SE 13 point. All right, we're going to go to SE 13.1, which is leveraging Toronto water data to improve customer service. Okay. Here we go, questions of staff.
Yes,
Councillor Fletcher.
I'd like to be clear again on the categories. I'm back to what's shifted since we've had our work with 311 and Toronto Water around sewage treatment plants, and that you're able to pinpoint exactly where those odors are from, whether it's the local sewer, et cetera, because that was a difficult circumstance. So not just for mine, but for all of them, however many we have. 3 or 4, how many sewage treatment plants do we have operational?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have 4 sewage treatment plants that are operational, but they're not the only source of odor complaint that we might receive from a resident where they talk about the sewage or a smell of that nature.
Yes, but the ones that we do have may or may not be malodorous.
Yeah, generally there's 2 of them that tend to attract more odor complaints. That's the Humber and the Ash Bridges Bay plant. The Highland Creek plant and the North Toronto plant very infrequently get odor complaints, but they have in the past when there's a process upset, but it's rare. The 2 bigger ones are the ones that generally get some odor complaints.
And so, again, just going for that category, is there now a category for sewage treatment plant, each one of them, or is it still, how's that being dealt with now by Toronto Water and 311? Because I'm sure that you're not, I guess I'm going back to that same thing. Every division just says, here's all of our categories, and 311 has no ability to kind of detail that a bit more, give it a fine grain for people that are reaching out. At least I've discovered that. I didn't think it was the case. No editing.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The process about triaging the source of the complaint, because sometimes, as I mentioned, the complaint could be related to something else. So the complaint goes into 311, where the resident or the person that's calling in can document what they believe the odor to be. That then gets sent over to Toronto Water Tier 2 Center, who follows up and has a conversation with that individual to try to pinpoint the exact location and cause. So for example, people called in over the last month. We had 3 complaints on odors. 2 of them were related to one plant and 1 was to another plant. We also get complaints about...
Sorry, and They had to talk to somebody, or they were able to just
we have to
lay that in?
we have to follow up. Toronto Water staff follow up with the person to verify that location so we can be accurate on what they were describing and the location that they described. So Toronto Water has that data.
I just want to hear from 311 what your process is now, please. Thank you.
Through the chair, our forward-facing, customer-facing category is sewer or treatment plant odor. And then through questions that we ask customers, it is routed appropriately to Toronto Water. So what we've done is design it so that the customer doesn't have to understand the difference between different types of odors. They actually ask different questions, and then that's routed appropriately.
So what happens if you just send it in rather than call it in?
It's the same online. So the customer's taken through a series of questions, which helps us route it appropriately to Toronto Water.
If I go online and go to 311 and say, it's smelling at Ashbridges Bay, what happens next?
You would go to the sewer or treatment plant odor category, and then there would be questions. If you choose it's a treatment plant odor, then you would choose which plant, and then it would be routed appropriately to Toronto Water.
I can't send an email.
Oh, you can send an email as well, yes.
And then what happens if I'm sending an email?
Our 311 agents would route it appropriately.
I'm looking at, I send in that there's a smell and it's sewage treatment plant smell or a smell in my neighborhood, then what happens? Because this can't happen again for 4 days.
Absolutely, Counselor. So the same thing that happens online and on the phone would happen on the email. If the agent does not have all the information they need to create that service request to send to Toronto Water, we would ask the person will go back on the email to get all the information needed, the same we would do on the phone or online, to appropriately link it to water.
And so then now it's on a category, on a report category that says what? When I'm looking on the reports, just says sewer or sewage treatment plant, or is it specific to a sewage treatment plant?
The exact wording, do you have the exact word?
Through the chair, on the dashboard, it would come through just as the category, but we can always pull specific reports for different.
Yeah, but I'm looking, not you, me.
We can always pull that report specific to Ashbridges Bay for
I'm
you.
wondering if it's designated as Ashbridges Bay or Humber. Is it listed? If I'm to go on and pull that up, am I getting that? Or am I getting sewer smell or Ashbridges Bay? What am I getting?
We would have to pull that specifically for you on the
No,
counselor
I pull these
dashboard.
myself.
On the counselor dashboard, it is not that way right now.
Why not?
We can
Why
look
not
into.
after everything that's gone on? Why can't I go on today and say, oh, look, there's been 8 complaints for Ashbridges Bay? That seems crazy to me after everything that's gone on here for 2.5 months. Why has that not happened?
We can look into it, Counselor.
No, why wouldn't it have happened? For the reporting.
So reporting is what we used to have. This is a huge step towards it. We're now working even with the Toronto data platform so that we can link data with the Toronto Water so that we can provide more information going forward. It is a journey, Counselor, and I understand your frustration. We are enhancing as we go. It is already much better than before, but I hear you and we can take that back.
So in March or April, you've changed all of the process now for Ashbridges Bay, except me being able to go and just quickly pull up Ashbridges Bay or sewage treatment plant for odors. Is that correct? Just trying to find out.
Yeah, that's
Understand
correct,
this to executive
Counselor. I think the work behind the scenes takes a little bit longer to get it to do it for the Counselor dashboards, including the public dashboard. So we can take it away.
Public dashboard as well.
We can take it away and put it on both. There's behind the scenes works that needs to be done, including technology systems, open testing. So we can take this away to ensure that you can self-feed. And that's what the journey we're in on data. We are providing, we launched the dashboards in March. We're being transparent with the public on the data that's available. The public can see it, the counselors can see it, and we will continue to improve and hope counselors continue to use it as well.
Okay, I'm sending this to executive as well. Thank you.
I'm going to take an opportunity to ask just a couple of questions. Before we leave that one, I just wanted to understand a little bit better. So I was using the 311 reporting portal right now, and I see that if you want to report a sewer or an odor issue, the first question is it coming from a house? Is it coming from a sewer, I think it is, or a treatment plant? And then that takes you to the next level of reporting. To Councillor Fletcher's point, odors wafting through the air in an area may or may not connect to that treatment plant, but you can probably draw a conclusion with experience. Is there a vision on how a report could work? Would it be all the sewer treatment odors in the southwest or southeast corner of the city? Like, how would that work if there isn't a complete guarantee that the odor report is connected with the sewage plant? Or are they always? I don't know.
It's through you, Mr. Chair. But you mentioned the word vision. What I would envision is we'll talk about closing the loop. It's a term that you used. Right now, residents will call, and sometimes they are completely accurate with their description of what's causing the odor, and we will take it and deal with that person. Other cases, you're correct, they think it's something, but it's something else. And what we will do is document, and we're required to document our response to that, and we have a record, and we will put it in our system. What we need to do is have that go back and be fully integrated with the original CSR call, so the data then can be shared in the manner that you're talking about. Because right now they're in different systems, and we track and use our work order system, which is different than the CSR system that's used by 311.
So I see this as a common issue to, say, noise reporting. Somebody may report amplified sound or music. They may do that, let's say, in the vicinity of somewhere in North York. And there may be some inferences that it's coming from a venue, and other people might just say, hey, there's this amplified sound, it's bothering me. It takes a bit of detective work to tie those threads together. And I know that's hard, but is there a way that that can be done? Is it through geography? Is it through a human being just simply going through these pieces and putting them together? Do we have a way of doing that? I know these systems are
we do.
pretty sophisticated.
Yeah. So there is a full odor complaint procedure that's in place with Toronto Water. We use it for treatment plants. We use it for investigating sewer odors. It's been established and well-defined over decades of work. We work with the Ministry of Environment and Climate and Park to develop that protocol. It's part of our certificates. Humber Bay plant, for example, you're familiar with it. There's a protocol we follow there. So there are established investigative techniques, as you're describing, that Toronto Water uses to document and verify that complaint. And we have to write it up in our annual reports that we submit to the ministry, saying we had these many complaints and how many were verified to be plant-related versus sewer-related, or in certain cases, there have been other industries that emitted an odor and was attributed to the plant in error. So we document that and keep a record of that. It's how do we make that information public or link it back to any original complaint? And that's where I think Daniela was saying there's a lot of work required in the back end of the systems and how we get that information back to that original link.
And that is correct. Just to add to the data platform, and I'll let technology talk about it, but this is a journey on how we're linking all the data, the system, so that we can manually do it. In the meantime, yes, there are some reporting that is manual, and we're working with every office as they need information to provide that. And I'll pass it to technology.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Through the chair. So one of the challenges we are facing is we have so many systems which are working in silos. How we are planning to answer and address that challenge by creation of Toronto Data Platform. Toronto Data Platform helps to break down those data silos, make it much more easier to correlate the data from the SR to the work management, and we can analyze all that information.
Thank you. I'm going to squeeze one more in real quick. In the report, it says sewer main backups as a report. Could you just define what a sewer main backup is? And is that different from basement flooding?
Yes, it is different than basement flooding. A sewer main backup can occur just with the general obstruction, be it debris or rags or grease, and be very localized and may not even impact properties. You may see discharge on the roadway versus basement flooding. Basement flooding, we tend to categorize that as being related to a significant storm event. And then you get basement flooding occurring because you have rainwater entering into the system versus an obstruction that just can't happen operationally within the sewer.
Thank you. Those were all my questions. Members, any further questions? Members wishing to speak? Councillor Fletcher?
Yeah, I'll just send this one as well over, because I'd like to executive, just to be really clear on the situation for the sewage treatment plants, having gone through really grim time, and we're set up a new system. I just want to make sure everything is set up, top to bottom, and that there's nothing confusing. When we're calling it up, I know we're trying to be helpful to the public, but I also would like you to be helpful for my work, where I use 311 a lot, and numerous, hundreds of categories, or not being able to pinpoint something easily doesn't make for an easy use system. So that's why perhaps by that time you can tell me how that's going to work. Whatever has to be done on the back end, I see Ms. Brars here, that's IT, whatever has to happen. I'm assuming that would have been a 5-alarm fire. If Mr. Jessup Chief was here, he would have said 5-alarm fire, those batteries are lithium, they're burning out of control, and we have to do something about it immediately. So I don't find that part's been done yet. And I'd like to make sure that if there's IT issues to accomplish that they're just done right away. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Other members wishing to speak? Seeing none. On the motion from Councillor Fletcher, all those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Our next item is SE 13.2, using 311 and other data to identify trends and improve service delivery in solid waste management services. We have registered speakers. Our first speaker is Ingrid Boudet from No More Noise. Is Ingrid here or online?
Solid waste. Solid waste.
Hello, I'm online.
Welcome, Ingrid. Back to the committee, please proceed.
Thank you so much. So this might put me just a couple seconds over, but I just want to say thank you very much to Councillor Holliday and the staff for this really informative and helpful committee. I think we've done a lot of great work, and I look forward to working with Danielle and the CXD team in the future on improving 311, especially when it comes to noise. So now with that, I'd like to share my screen and go on with my presentation. Okay, there we go. Share. And this should now go into slide view. Everybody can see my screen? Yes, I'm assuming so. Okay.
We see it.
Great, thank you so much. So it is a pleasure to speak with you today on how we can identify trends and improve service delivery in solid waste management services. My name is Ingrid Boudet, and I am founder of No More Noise Toronto. We are a grassroots advocacy organization. We're a federal not-for-profit dedicated to reducing urban noise pollution to improve public health and sleep quality. We have a health focus, we are data-driven, and we are engaged in the civic engagement process, as you know, and we are collaboratively improving policy, and we've been working with cities, councillors, and tech companies, and also city divisions to improve processes and change policy to protect public health and improve resident outcomes. So sleep is a biological necessity. There are physical health risks when people don't have a good sleep. We all know how crappy we feel after not having a good sleep, but chronic sleep disruption is linked to increased cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and stroke risks. Nighttime noise keeps the body in a high state of alert, having those vessels constantly constricted. There's also cognitive impairment impacts, which impacts focus, memory, and decision-making. Repeated awakenings interrupt restorative stages of sleep, essential for mental well-being and productivity. And again, I think we all know what that feeling is like. So the big number in this particular topic is 0, because before this was implemented in 2022, there was 0 public consultation, there was 0 graduated implementation, 0 education of drivers, 0 noise mitigation measures suggested, 0 education for property managers, 0 consideration for residents and their health, and 0 mention of noise in the report submitted today. So as we know, if noise isn't mentioned, it is also probably not managed. So, and this is unacceptable noise. In the graphic here, you can see each one of those big red lines is a spike. Each one of those is a bin being picked up for overnight waste collection. And that waste collection noise is anywhere from over 95 to 107 decibels. That's the loudest I've captured. And it's louder than a modified muffler, most modified mufflers, or a leaf blower. They are of high intensity, and they are percussive. That will wake you up with a jolt if you're not already awake because of the heavy equipment compaction, the backup alarms, and so then you've got the banging of bins and the metal on metal bin strikes. So, and about a year and a half ago, we actually had a survey of people who in No More Noise were impacted by waste collection. And to answer the question of how many times they have heard waste collection this week, it was over 1 to 2 times was the most common, but not far behind was 5+ times. And then when we asked them if they've heard waste collection noise at night, the most common answer was between 5 and 7 a.m. The second most common was between 3 and 5 a.m. Can you just imagine how awful that must be to be woken up multiple times a night, multiple times a week by waste collection noise? So the thing with 311 is that this report is using data to fix service gaps, but the current trends show a failure in voluntary compliance from the operators. And I've got an image here of what the noise mitigation guidelines for private waste collection, this report that was put out in January of 2025. And there's a QR code where you can link to it. These are all requests. These are all suggestions. And so those are voluntary. But the thing with 311 is you do not have an accurate picture of the problem, because the residents actually have no confidence of the city solving the issue. They think, why report? It's non-enforceable. Finally, they feel that the city doesn't care about them. So the reports that you get into 311 is not indicative of the actual problem and how many people are impacted. So what we are recommending is implement some mandatory technical safeguards, broadband alarms. You would need to advocate to the province for that, but we'd be happy to support you in that. Source engineering, require rubber or plastic buffer mitigation on all commercial bins to cushion metal on metal contact. Handling practices, those drivers need to be educated and understand what kind of impact they are giving to people. And then there also needs to be sound level monitoring installed to ensure compliance. And then finally, scheduling coordination. So people need an immediate health relief. So we are asking for a temporary suspension. We urge the committee to propose to City Council an immediate temporary halt to overnight private commercial waste collection. This suspension provides immediate health relief while the city transitions from passive tracking to active enforcement by turning voluntary guidelines into mandatory regulations. And this also allows for sound level monitoring to be installed in the worst locations. So finally, ask yourselves, how would you feel going to bed knowing that you will be woken up multiple nights a week, sometimes multiple nights a night, and you don't know when that's going to happen? The anxiety is overwhelming. So finally, please let's create a healthy, livable city and a healthy, livable Toronto by reducing noise. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ingrid. Are there questions of the speaker?
Stop sharing. There we go. Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you for speaking to us. And just to let you know, we were watching your presentation very clearly in the room.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Our next speaker is Bashar Kassir. Welcome, Bashar. Yeah, please have a seat. Welcome to the committee. You've got 5 minutes to speak to us. I will just ask to make sure that you've got your, please have a seat, and just to make sure that your microphone is on. Could you just give it a tap?
I think it's on now.
Great. Please proceed, and we will hear your deputation.
Okay, sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bashar Kassir. I'm an engaged resident and familiar with the city enforcement process. I have previously worked with the bylaw officers and appeared in court as witness in noise-related cases that resulted in charges against the offenders. I also have experienced procedures issues within the system, including at least one instance when a noise complaint was closed as resolved without any contact or investigation. Following escalation, I received an apology from management acknowledging my concern. For full transparency, I'm also currently a candidate for Ward 10 in the upcoming municipal election. I'm a resident affected by repeated early morning waste collection noise at private institution site in my neighborhood. I have been engaged with the city processes for nearly 2 years, including 311, MLS, solid waste management, councillor staff, mayor's office, and bylaw enforcement officers. Excuse me. My correspondence with the esteemed committee documents more than an individual noise complaint. It illustrates several systematic issues in how exempt waste collection complaints are handled and how 311 data is or is not used. I want to focus my remarks on how recurring service data did not translate into effective resolution of repeated operation issue. 311 data was collected but did not drive effective intervention. I submitted multiple 311 reports over extended period of time. I was consistently advised that exempt noise complaints would be logged but not investigated. Despite this, the city-owned noise mitigation guidelines for private waste collection indicate that complaint information should be forwarded to the identified hauler to seek mitigation. This piece of information is not available directly to the public, but buried deep under layers of labyrinth on the city website. Councillor office had no clue of such mitigation service. I requested meetings with councillor over 24 times without a single response. There is a clear gap between what the guidelines describe and what occurred in practice. B, the issue was persistent and clearly patterned, and the same problem persisted for approximately 2 years despite extensive reporting. Between September 25 to June 26, I documented repeated early morning garbage collection. The pattern was consistent. Same location, same general time window, same type of activity, metal bin handling and truck loading. Same recurring schedule, multiple days per week. Same affected resident reporting. Videos consistently showed collections between approximately 5 to 5:30 a.m. The disturbance continued despite repeated reports to 311 Toronto, MLS, solid waste management services through city staff, mayor's office and councillor's office, University Club of Toronto. That's where the collection is taking place, and Waste Collection of Canada through city staff. C, response relied almost entirely on voluntary compliance. City staff, including municipal license and standards and noise enforcement officers, were responsive throughout. However, the city relied almost entirely on voluntary compliance, putting myself and my family under the mercy of garbage haulers. Joshua Pesce, Leo Butko, Kamil Ahmed, and Tasha Bailey remained responsive. However, they consistently explained that Chapter 591 left them without enforcement tools. The result was repeated requests to the hauler rather than durable corrective action. Enforcement authority was limited due to the current exemption. As a result, outcomes or the lack of them depended on goodwill rather than enforceable standards. This created repeated cycles of outreach without lasting operational change. D, a significant administrative error delayed progress. In May 26, Leo Botko advised that the hauler had instructed drivers not to collect before 7 a.m., and I reported back to Leo the following day that banking continues. Later, in May 2026, Leo Botko advised that the staff had been communicating with a different waste hauler for about 9 months. Even though I have identified the waste connections of Canada from the outset and repeatedly supplied videos, identified the company, videos captured, and pictures of waste bins were clearly, okay, excuse me, just my tablet switched off. My apologies. Videos captured and pictures of waste bins were clearly showing who is the hauler. This misunderstanding appears to have delayed meaningful engagement with the actual operator and required the process to effectively restart. 311 data did not appear to identify a recurring pattern with the same address, same operation, same days, same approximate time, same hauler, and same reporting resident.
Mr. Kassir, could I just get you to wrap up because you're over now?
Sure. I just have practical recommendations for the committee from an affected resident perspective. I think council should reinforce that residents have reasonable expectation of sleep, quiet enjoyment, and livable conditions in residential areas. Provide clear public education to council staff and residents on health impacts of chronic sleep disruptions. Review whether the current oversight framework for exempt noise, including waste collection, provides sufficient accountability and complaint escalation pathways. And consider whether the city ombudsman should review how exempt noise policies and related council decisions are implemented in practice.
Thank you. Are there questions of the speaker? I'm going to ask a couple quick ones. Mr. Kassir, you mentioned that you had a difficult time finding the guidelines for private waste, noise mitigation guidelines for private waste collection. Do you have a suggestion on how that would be made easier for members of the public? What's intuitive to you?
Well, Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. What I can tell you is that, I follow you and Councillor Fletcher going with the operation side of city, and it seems to me, A, the website is not very friendly.
Okay.
B, there is lack of information at staff level. So I filed with 311. 311 gives you an automatic response. Okay, this is exempted. We keep it for the data. You reach out to your city councilor. They have no clue that there is actually a mitigation system. And then I had to dig deeper and go and read more documents and PDF files from committees around the city to find out, yes, actually, there is a voluntary mitigation system in place, hidden, and there is a bylaw officer who, that's his job. His job is just to go and try to mitigate. That is hidden. Like even my city councilor, Osman Malik, the deputy mayor, office has no clue there is such a mechanism. They say, oh, sorry, we can't help you because this is a private hauler. It's not the solid waste management collecting from this site. So go on your own. So I'm describing, I'm not an elected official. I'm describing a problem, but I think we have been left on our own. That's the mere reality is that you can't find help. And after 9 months working with a supervisor, Joshua Pesci, I don't know if he's in the room or not, trying to mitigate, Leo Botko said, oh, we've been contacting the wrong hauler. Or excuse me, I sent videos. I shared the videos with the committee. I took pictures in daylight showing the name of the hauler, the phone number, and then professional services from the city of Toronto saying,
My second question would be, is it correct that this pertains to a private property next to your private property where the situation is occurring?
Correct. In front of my property, yes, correct.
Did you do anything to contact that private property owner yourself to say, hey,
Yes,
I'm your neighbor. This is a
I did,
problem.
Mr. Chair, and I included that in the documents that I shared with the committee when I requested the meeting. The site is called University Club of Toronto. That's on University Avenue, north of Queen, south of Dundas. And I sent them an email, say, hey, okay, I would like you to show some respect to the community around you. And the answer came, oh, we are exempted, and we have been here 100 years, longer than any other resident in. So it's very arrogant response. I said, well, we stay in touch. I reached out to their board. The board has no intention whatsoever to get engaged because they don't give a damn, because they have the exemption. They in their response, they cite that exemption in the 591. Like, no, that's how ridiculous the system is. I said, well, I understand there is exemption. That's why I'm reaching out to you.
Thank you. Any other questions of the speaker?
Just,
Councillor Fletcher.
just remind me, does 311 actually take your complaint? Because it's not, it's a noise complaint you're making, not a solid waste.
Yes, madam. Yes, they take it, and I'm familiar with the system because I've done it before with other sites. However, because it's exempted, the 311, they say, we only take it for data collection. It's not going to be investigated. However, what happened is, what happened is later on, I have learned there is something called escalation at 311, and that's how I get, one step ahead.
But the question is, it's a noise complaint that you're making.
Correct.
Because it's, and I know how frustrating, I hear how frustrating this is for you. It's not a solid waste function of the city, but it's a noise-related issue to private haulers.
100%.
100%. So just to be clear, because I'm going to sort out exactly what that looks like on our end. Okay.
100% noise complaint.
Yeah.
Noise complaint. Welcome.
Related to solid waste, which isn't the city function. So that's our little problem here.
Thank you for joining us. If there's
Thank
no
you
further
for listening to
questions-
me.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joseph Liu. Is Joseph here? Great.
So, thing I need to do.
We're ready.
I will show on this. I have a presentation. Will show on the screen. I just wonder.
Okay. You know what? Sorry. Presentation, can they let staff know about that ahead of time so we're ready to roll, please?
Yeah, so that's great advice, Councillor Fletcher. If any of the subsequent speakers have a presentation, if you can approach the technology support staff just to make it an efficient process, we'd appreciate it.
I could hardly hear you. Is this it, The Rock? The Rock, look behind you.
You all set, Joseph? Welcome to the committee. You've got 5 minutes.
Good morning. Today, I would like to respond to item 13.2. I think this is a very good idea to collect different kinds of data and to improve the service. But I have something to say about this kind of data-driven approach, the smart technologies involved, and something called biodigital convergence. So we collect some kind of the geographic information, and by using tonnage data, asset information, geospatial data. And I'm most interested in geospatial data because the images are cool. And in order to collect these data, we use satellites, we use mobile mapping systems such as the Google Map Cars. We have the GPS, and we have the Internet of Things and sensors. And I think the Internet of Things and sensors are the most powerful ones. The Internet of Things is actually, they are small computers and they are sensors. So they can collect the environment data, and they have network. They interconnected with one another. Therefore, they can collect all kinds of data. And they are powerful because they are cheap, they are small, and they are everywhere. Like in 2025, it is estimated there are over 20 billion. And they are in our devices, everything. And I'm not an expert, but for data-driven decision-making, I believe that we need to collect data. We need to build a model. And to build a model, we need to figure out the metrics. And because of this, a data-driven decision always involves some kind of simulation, a simulation of the reality. And I believe that more metrics we can include, we can have a better picture of the reality. Before I want to include a few areas I want to speak about, but before that, I want to pull out some facts. So for now, solid waste management services are using something called RouseMile, and the system is going to go online to a cloud base. And I think this is a smart system because it collects real-time data, it archives historical data, and run all the data through the analytics, and they automate the route planning. And RouseSmart is a FedEx company. I learned from the book called The Age of Surveillance Capitalism that when we submit data, the data will be collected, but some of them, they are behavioral surplus. So other than the useful data the system collects, the company also use our other information, and they run it with their analytics, and they can create very highly profitable prediction products. And for most of the time, our data is collected without our knowledge. And these data can be used to nudge, tune, and hurt our behaviors. And for the data collectors, they have a lot of power, so they can gain knowledge that we cannot do the same way. And in this particular case, I think the mother company FedEx will take advantage of the data collected and use it for their own good. In order to run this data, we need data centers. And a lot of people are saying bad things about it, especially people nearby. And network, because there are Internet of Things everywhere. So I think we are under a lot of radiation, and I'm not sure if this is healthy, especially, there's no way to do some long-term safety studies, as every few years we have an upgrade. I know it's kind of cliche, but I want to go down a rabbit hole. I believe that this data-driven smart paradigm has a bigger picture behind it. We are looking for an NBIC experiment, N for nano, nanotechnology, bio for biotechnology, info for IT, cogno for cognitive science. And by the convergence of these four sciences with engineering, it can be driven by AI, big data, computer power, and connectivity, and give us the power of biodigital convergence. And the definition of biodigital convergence is the merging and integration of biological life with digital technologies to create new forms of life, intelligence, and control. My time is up, so thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, I'll say quickly, thank you for that. There's a lot there. I just wondered if you would consider filing your presentation with the committee as a communication, or at the very least, if you want to email it to me and the other committee members, I appreciate it. There was a lot there and I found it interesting.
Okay, I'll email to the clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? Seeing none, questions of staff? I'll ask a couple. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Fletcher.
Just on the calls, and I understand that these are private waste collection vehicles. That's taken under noise complaint, correct? Our second deputant talked about when he's called in. That's going to come up as a noise complaint. Is it going to come up as a noise complaint private hauler, or what exactly would it show?
Through the chair, it would come up as a permitted or exempted noise complaint submitted through 311. So anything waste collection related is coming through that SR code.
A permitted?
It's called permitted or exempted noise complaints through MLS.
So that could be a permit that I gave in a park that's really noisy, and I gave an extension, or I gave a exemption for that. So that really, I think we've been at this before here, and what other committees have we had? I'm going to ask you, even though it's not you. What other committees have we had this conversation about the private haulers and what can be done? Has it happened at ECDC or anywhere where MLS reports directly?
I'd have to turn that over to MLS to answer that one, Councillor.
Are they here?
I believe it was GGC or ACTEV.
Somebody's here that knows where this has been before today.
Yeah, through the chair, this has been through ECDC, correct.
Through ECDC, the issue of private haulers, nighttime collection, difficult sleeping, and any idea what length of time that's been there? I think I was there for one of them.
Yeah, so the exemption was originally granted in 2022 through committee and council. In 2023, MLS conducted an extensive noise bylaw review and reported in early 2024. We reported again in late 2024 about waste collection noise. So it has been several times.
So there was an exemption that was given during COVID, 2022.
Yes.
When everybody was online. Would I be right about that? The whole city? Everybody was at home. We were all online. Council was online. Committee was online.
I wasn't there. I wouldn't be able to speak to the reason for the exemption, but it was not a staff recommendation. It did come up through committee.
Oh, let's be really clear then. There was no staff recommendation for an exemption. And what was existing before the exemption?
So they had time constraints. So depending on the day of the week, I'm just going to use weekdays. So waste collection noise was not allowed to be generated after 11 p.m. And I want to say 7 a.m.
So like a construction permit, essentially, the same, or for 7 to 7, but after 11, before 7.
Yeah, very similar. Yep.
And that exemption was done at committee.
Correct.
And now, because that really isn't the business of 311 when that happened, but thank you. Given that it's been so prevalent and such an issue because it's been brought up a whole number of times now. I just wonder if there's some way to capture that in a better way under noise. And because it is an exemption, but the nature of the exemption is something that is under pretty strong discussion at committee and constantly and by the community. So is there some way to also be able to track that their exemption for private, I guess, overnight collection or overnight solid, what would it be called, Matt? Overnight solid waste collection, overnight, pardon? Overnight
commercial collection.
overnight commercial collection.
Councillor, if I could clarify, in 2024, as part of the noise report, council directed us to set up a process to collect these service requests, and we call them non-enforceable. But council also directed MLS staff. So unlike other non-enforceable noise service requests, and I'll say vehicle noise, for example, that we do only collect it for data purposes, council told us to take in these non-enforceable requests and work with the complainant and the industry on a voluntary approach to try and address the particular issue. So we do that. This is quite a unique type of service request.
But I'm going back to me calling it up. I'm not going to be able to go on now and just call that particular, that's very, it's not, it was an exemption. We never exempted vehicle noise. It's just there. It's already exempted.
Oh, correct, yes.
So this was an exemption to a previous bylaw, I would guess.
That's right.
And now we're tracking complaints about the exemption that we gave. And I think we need to be tracking them in finer detail. Well, I didn't hear that. Sorry, Danielle.
And we are, Counselor. So today we're collecting that information, and there's a disclaimer online. If you're you're reporting a noise concern that will not be investigated, it is not a bylaw violation or has an exemption, data collected will be utilized to inform future policy and enforceable initiatives. Would you like to continue? So that would be the same as our agents would tell the customer on the phone.
Yes, but I'm interested in how many of those are from a bylaw that we exempted. It's just the operational side. So it's not quite what you're saying. Yes, it's not something we can enforce, but we used to enforce it and it got dropped in the middle of the night, in the middle of COVID, and I don't blame anybody for being upset. So I'm looking for more particular details, Mr. Chair, for my second round.
Second round.
Yeah. I can answer this question, if it helps. Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah.
So in 2025, we received 97 service requests on this particular category. And so far in 2026, we've received 40. And these all, we take them in and our noise team investigate them and work with the complainant if we can identify the particular carrier, for example. And then we've got an arrangement with the industry to see if we can, for example, ask them to move a different collection time. But as you have emphasized, this is a voluntary approach.
And where would I find the 97 in one place on 311 for in my portal? Under what?
Under noise complaint, we can get that to you, Counselor, in your office.
General noise complaint. I'm looking for the 97. Okay. And the reason it was exempted by committee?
Again, we weren't there at the time, but there are some safety benefits for collecting at nighttime. And maybe this is something for my solid waste management colleague. There is congestion benefits as well. And so these are some things that we reported on.
But you didn't initiate it.
No, this was not a staff recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Further questions of staff? Seeing none, members wishing to speak?
Oh, one speaker left. Okay. Just on this one, I just find that, we do things and now we have 97 complaints and they're big complaints if you're not sleeping. So I'm just interested in the 97. I'll follow this up. And I'm sure there's more. People didn't complain or they gave up when they saw that it's not enforceable. So this is my issue. It might be easier to collect at night, but at 4 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, those times, it might have been easier to just go to midnight and 6 o'clock rather than complete exemption of all kinds. So I'm very interested in revisiting that. But I'm very interested in more specific details because we had something that you would have been able to call up about a bylaw. You wouldn't be getting, sorry, it's non-enforceable. You would have been be able to complain somebody's breaking the bylaw. So I know legally you don't have to do that, but I think customer friendly wise, it's useful to do that. And noise is just, we've made so many changes on noise in this city since COVID. And I would say most of them have made people very, very unhappy. Residents are not happy about how noise is enforced. We didn't have noise complaint teams on after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, actually, at one point, and they had to be reinstated. So just looking over at MLS, I think you probably know that's probably one area that people are very, very unhappy about as local residents that are just trying to get on with their lives or sleep, whichever one they're trying to do. So I will follow that up with the 97 and see where I take that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And ask to have that category. Don't know if I need to formally ask that. I'm going to do that, but we'll figure out how that's going to work. It needs to be specific. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll speak just very briefly to thank the speakers today. I want to ensure that it's understood that the policy or the bylaw is outside of the jurisdiction of the committee. And I think all of us appreciate the point made that the exemption for nighttime collection has a consequence. And some people spoke to us about that today. I also want to acknowledge the observation that I think is of interest to this committee, but again, still outside of our scope, is that there's a directive that the staff take in complaints for things that the city can't enforce and then take action on a voluntary basis. And I think we heard a story today where despite some of that work, there was unsuccessful resolution. And I think that idea, that concept is something for the committee to be cognizant of because of expectations of people that get involved in the process, but that there isn't a clear or a certain outcome from that. And finally, as one of the speakers pointed out, it was very difficult for them to find the information on the waste collection guidelines, and hopefully staff can take that as an undertaking to give some consideration to where that document is located and how it's pointed to so that people can find it a little bit easier on the internet. With that, I'll just check, Mr. Clerk. I think I have to move the motion, which I was supposed to do at the beginning of the item, but I will move the staff recommendations on this item to adopt the item. So all those in favor, any opposed, that carries. We'll move on to our final item, which is number 4, SE 13.4, using 311 and other data to drive service excellence in urban forestry. We have a speaker, that is Nicole Corrado. Nicole, I think, is online. Nicole, it's Stephen Holiday. Can you hear me? You're back on with the committee. No longer online? Okay, I'll ask if there's any further deputations. Seeing none, questions of staff on service excellence in urban forestry. I'll just ask one brief one if we have staff in place. I'm just living in the west end of the city, many people will acknowledge that there was quite a bit of wind a few days ago and it took down a lot of trees. And I just wanted to know the process. If somebody loses a tree significantly, a private tree, whether a big piece of it comes off or the tree comes down totally, does the citizen have to go and obtain a permit, or can they just get on with cleaning it up?
The chair, the first step is an inspection. So they would make a service request. We would undertake an inspection that would identify the next steps. So if it's a dangerous situation, an imminent danger, the city would remove the tree. We do that. If there's a period of time the tree can remain, then the individual would be able to move forward. It may require a permit, but again, it depends on the situation. And we look at it through the inspection process.
And how do we do with respect to responding to inspections? If the tree in my backyard topples, how long do I have to wait for someone to come and look at it before I can cut it up and get rid of it?
So if it's related to a storm cleanup, it's a 72-hour service standard.
72 hours.
And I think we, as we had in the report, meet it about around 90% of the time right now. But those are prioritized over all other calls.
They are prioritized because that's the issue with storms, is the acute demand on the system and staff. So we have, that means the last question is, do you just tell me generally we have systems in place to deal with storms and emergencies as opposed to the volume of requests that have to do with everyday pruning and maintenance?
That's correct. We have processes in place when we have storms. We have staff on standby outside of normal hours, but we do prioritize those above everything else, focused on health and safety and access for emergency vehicles, and then we kind of triage from there.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Members wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll move the recommendations in the report. Thank staff for it. It's a very interesting report. And we'll see how things go as more and more data accumulates. So that's to receive this report for information. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Confirming, Mr. Clerk, that is the final item of business. Therefore,
very much, Mr. Chair, for your work this session, and to our clerks and staff at the city and in 311 and everyone else. But I just wanted to thank you for a good job.
thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Thank you to everybody. All right, that meeting is adjourned.